Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's good to be back. I've been gone quite a bit with my job, but it's good to be back and good to get another video underway. It's been a while. I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you all for taking some time to be here. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, comments. I think you all know the drill by now, but we appreciate you being here, and those of you that come back, thank you. What are we going to do today? I have a few things, some new records and a couple compact discs that came in that I want to talk to you about. Well, without further ado, let's talk about some new things that came in that I listened to since I've been home the last couple days. Let's put these up here so they stay out of the way. Maybe that won't knock them over. You can see how prepared I am today. Anyhow, I'm going to try to get another video done. I'll tell you about that in a few minutes when we're done with this. I found a copy of a record that I've been looking for quite a while. And it's an Art Farmer record called the Art Farmer Quartet, a work of art. This is some of his later work, maybe not real late work, but later than what he did on Columbia and a couple other labels. This is on the Concord Jazz label. It's a pretty good recording. I don't know who did the master on it, but Concord, for the most part, has a pretty good sound to most of their records. This was done in 1981. I remember seeing this band quite a bit in New York. Young Fred Hirsch on piano on this. Really, really tasty player, good player. Billy Hart. Boy, he's done a lot of work with a lot of people. In fact, I think he's on a couple of Pat Martino, Joey DeFrancisco releases, if I remember right. But he's a great drummer. Bod Bodley on bass. I don't know who he is, but then of course Art Farmer on flugelhorn. But this time Art was playing flugelhorn almost exclusively, and it's on Concord. Excuse me. A couple standards, Red Cross, Love Walked In. Art Farmer is, I won't say he's an underrated trumpet player, but you know, going back to that series of the couple of videos I did on more Clifford, less Miles, I would almost put Art Farmer in not in Clifford's category. Certainly, I don't think anybody is, frankly. I love Art's playing. But he's not right on top of the trumpet food chain, in a lot of people's minds that he should be. He's a very, very tasty player. Plays a lot of cool chord substitutions and notes that gives him a style that only Art Farmer has. I love his playing. This is a great album. It's interesting. It doesn't have any sax player on this record. It's just Art and the trio. But it's really a good album, recorded quite well. Again, on the Concord label. And I think you could find this around. I actually bought this in a store, not on Discogs. But if you could find it, I really recommend this record. A work of art, Art Farmer. And really get into some Art Farmer. He really is a good player. I think I talked about some of the recordings that he did for Columbia, Time and a Place. He did with Jimmy Heath, and I think that's actually a Jimmy Heath record. I'm not sure, but it's Art Farmer's a great player, and check him out. Let's see what else. Oh, on Trend Records. Trend Records recorded a few bands, one of which was some of the Gerald Wilson stuff in later years. Good recordings. It's a Los Angeles label. I think they're a division of Discovery Records, I believe. I think Bob Florence band recorded on them quite a bit. But Harold Land is on here and Ernie Watts. The two of those guys together make for a really quite amazing sax section. Jerome Richardson's on this as well, and Jack Nimitz on baritone. Trumpet is Snooky Young's on this. You all may know Snooky. Snooky was the lead player in the Tonight Show band at the time in Los Angeles, as well as the lead player in the Thad Jones Mel Lewis band. Snooky Young was with Basie. He did a lot of work. Good player. But this is a really good record. Recorded well. Some Duke Ellington tunes. And, of course, a couple originals by Gerald Wilson's a great writer and arranger. A really good sounding, well-recorded record. Date-wise, I'm guessing this was in, again, the early 80s, if I remember right. But anything that's on Trend Records or Discovery Records, it's really recorded well, sounds good, in good shape. And Gerald Wilson, called Jessica. Let's see what else. Here's a record that I had as a kid and found a copy on Discogs and picked it up. It's an old Jazzland recording with the Montgomery brothers, of course, Wes Montgomery, Buddy Montgomery, and Monk Montgomery on bass, with George Shearing. I'm not a big George Shearing fan per se, but he plays really well on this. Very kind of a tasty player, not a show off at all. British, blind, and a really good player. I don't have a lot of George Shearing, but I really like how he plays in this record. This was done in LA in 1961. I lucked out. It was rated as a very good plus, and it is. It's a good quality sound on this old Jazzland label, which of course is part of the Prestige group. But it's really a good record. A lot of standards. There are 11 cuts on here, so there's not tons of stretching out. And, of course, Wes Montgomery plays great, as he has played in almost every record that I've ever heard him on. I think it was Pat Metheny said Wes Montgomery never made a bad record, and he never did, as far as I'm concerned. Finally, as far as vinyl goes, I saw a copy of this on Discogs, so I bought it. It's a recording of Clifford Brown, the quartet in 1955 at the Beehive in Chicago. It was a private recording that somebody did. I guess you could call it almost a bootleg, but it wasn't really, they didn't call it a bootleg, but it was released in '77. And this is on a JVC label, which is a European. I believe it's a British the division of JVC. If anybody knows that, you can let me know. I'd be interested to see that. Victor Musical Enterprises. Sonically, this is not a great album. Musically, it's a really good album. Very different the way the quintet plays on here than they do on their recordings for MRC. They stretch out more, and they play a little more outside, not in the same vein almost that they did on the records. It's an interesting record. And Clifford, of course, just plays like a demon on here. But if you could get a copy of this, you're going to be disappointed with the sound, but you're not going to be disappointed really with the music. Sonically, it's not doesn't sound the same as the MRC records, but it's interesting, of course. Sonny Rollins is on this record, not Harold Land, and George Morrow. They've got someone named Leo Blevins on guitar, who I'm not familiar with, and a Billy Wallace on piano. Richie Powell was not on this band for some reason, but it was recorded back in 55 at the Beehive in Chicago, where I believe Clifford was on the way to when he unfortunately died in the car accident the following year. But great record. Musically, a great record. Sonically, not so much. But again, I think this is a European pressing, and the vinyl's fairly clean. Sound is was done on a fairly average recorder, so it's not that great, but Clifford plays great. Okay, a couple CDs that came in. I found a copy of a Geri Allen CD with Hayden, Charlie Hayden, and Paul Motian. And the title of this is called Segments. And, you know, I believe the Jazz Bums and a couple other people here in the vinyl community recently talking about Geri Allen's piano playing. So I did a little investigating and looked for a couple of things I didn't have. This is one of them. It's a really good record. You know, her playing reminds me, there's a lot of Monk in her playing, and she's a real tasty player, really interesting player with a distinctive style. Recorded really well. This is on the DIW label. And I believe this came from Discogs. 9 tunes on here that range from about 4 to 5 minutes. There's one 7-minute cut and one 6-minute cut. So there's not a lot of stretching out, but she plays really well on this. And for those of you who don't know Geri Allen's playing, it would be good that you know that, because she was kind of a not a force, but you know, she played with a real Monk influence as far as I'm concerned. And anybody that does that's okay. In my boat, another pianist, I happened to hear this on internet radio, so I went and bought a copy of it. It's Michelle Petrucciani with Steve Gadd and Anthony Jackson. You talk about someone who's done a lot of work. You got to look at Anthony Jackson's discography on who he was a sideman with, bass player, you name it, from rock performers to jazz movies. Man, he's just done it all, and is a really good player. Plays electric bass on this. Sonically, it's really clean. It's almost too clean. Sounds great, but I wish it was on vinyl. It has that CD sound, that real studio CD sound, and it was recorded live. So whoever recorded it back in 1997 did a great job. It is a really good record. Petrucciani plays superbly on this. Trio works great together. Steve Gadd, who's a really good drummer, and again, another guy who's done everything with everybody. You know, he plays well, stays out of the way, and adds a lot to the record. It's a really interesting version of So What on here, which is the last cut. And my other favorite on here is a little piece in C for you. C meaning the key of C. A good record, and I wish this was one of these things. It's never been released on vinyl. I wish it was. I think it would sound a lot better. Though this is a great sounding, clean CD, almost too clean, very digital sounding, but it's good. Here's another recording that Steve Gadd was on. You know, this band, I'm going to put a link here in the video to some of the videos that the WDR Big Band, this is a state-sponsored big band in Germany based in Cologne. And these guys, and I think there's a few ladies in this band, play really well together. Very, very polished musicians in Germany. This is a very new record called Center Stage. And it features Steve Gadd and his gang, meeting Ronnie Cuber, who just passed a month or so ago, on Barry sax, Eddie Gomez on bass. Some really interesting guitar solos by the German guitarist, who I'll pronounce his name wrong, and other people in the band. Recorded really well. Now, having said that, it's really a very R&B oriented recording, very different from what this band has done in the past. They've done some Ellington stuff, some original stuff. Micah Benny is the leader, lives over there and has organized this band. It's been around quite a while. But the recording is very, almost smooth, jazzy sounding. It's real R&B, which is great. And they do tunes like Them Changes, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, Watching the River Flow, Way Back Home, Crusaders tune. And then an original Lucky 13, I think Gadd wrote that. Can't Stop Loving You, the Ray Charles version that Basie made famous. But at any rate, great arrangements. Again, a very digital CD sounding recording. I'm not real fond of it. It's clean. You know, it sounds really clean, but it's really digital. It doesn't have that openness that a good vinyl record would give it, I believe. And it's really kind of almost at times smooth, jazzy sounding, but good playing. Ronnie Cuber, I love his playing. It's going to be it's a real loss losing Ronnie, but good player. I'll put some links to this. It'd be worth listening to and maybe picking up. It's a very different sounding big band record. So that's about it for today. I have a few things that I'm working on. The next video I'm going to be doing, maybe even later this week, and I might do two, because I've been on this Pablo Records kick, and I've been buying a lot of Pablo recordings. I want to talk about some of them with Duke Ellington and Count Basie and Harry Edison and some other people. So that'll be coming up in a couple days. I'm still getting through a couple of these. I've got 2 more coming in today from Face Records in Japan. So once I get through those, I'll do another video. But I really love Pablo recordings. They're clean, well done. And we'll talk a little bit about how that record label got going and the music. Well, thanks again for being here. Again, like us, subscribe, what have you. And we'll be back, and we'll see you soon. So long.